The movie was already playing when Lily asked the question that made Emily's chest tighten. "Mom, why are we watching this?" "Dad will be back soon." Emily didn't look at her daughter right away. The television filled the room with soft music and warm colors, a love story moving forward like it knew exactly where it was going. Emily sat on the couch, shoulders stiff, hands folded together as if holding something fragile. Outside their Ohio home, the sky had turned dark early, and wind pushed dry leaves along the quiet street. "It's just something to pass the time," Emily said calmly. "Sit with me." Lily hesitated, then climbed back onto the couch. She was 11, sharp-eyed, always noticing changes in tone, in silence. In the way adults paused before answering simple questions, she picked at the edge of her popcorn bowl and glanced at the front door as if expecting it to open at any second. Mark had left that morning with his usual smile and his phone already in his hand. He kissed Emily on the cheek, told Lily to be good, and promised he'd be home by midnight. He always said that. Midnight had once meant something. Now it felt like a soft excuse that came with no weight. Emily tried to focus on the movie. On the screen, a woman waited at a train station, eyes searching the crowd. Emily felt an ache she couldn't explain, like remembering a dream after waking up. She shifted on the couch and crossed her legs, then uncrossed them, restless without. "Knowing why Dad doesn't like this kind of movie?" Lily said. Emily smiled faintly. "I know." The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. 8:30, then 9. Emily checked her phone not because there was a message, but because she hoped there would be one. The screen stayed dark. She placed it face down on the table, as if that would make the waiting easier. Lily leaned her head against Emily's arm. "Are you mad at Dad?" The question landed gently but firmly. Emily swallowed. "No, sweetheart, grown-ups just get tired sometimes." Lily nodded, but she didn't look convinced. Her eyes stayed on the door. On the television, the movie characters laughed together, close and easy. Emily remembered when laughter had filled her own house without effort, when Mark used to come home early just to surprise them, when he asked about her day and listened without checking his phone. Those memories felt distant now, like pictures left too long in the sun. A sudden knock at the door broke the quiet. Lily sat up straight. "That's him." Emily stood, her heart racing for reasons she didn't fully understand. She smoothed her sweater and walked to the door. When she opened it, the cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of leaves and night. Daniel Brooks stood on the porch, holding a small toolbox and wearing a polite, careful smile. "Oh," Emily said, surprised. "Hi, Daniel. Sorry to bother you," he said. "Your porch light was flickering again. I noticed when I took my trash out. Thought I'd fix it before it goes completely dark." Emily glanced at the light above them, blinking on and off like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. "That's really kind of you." "Thank you." Daniel shrugged. "No trouble at all." From inside, Lily watched them closely, her curiosity growing. Emily stepped aside and let Daniel work. He moved with calm focus, standing on his toes to reach the fixture. Emily noticed his steady hands, the quiet way he went about things. It felt strange to notice such details. "You don't have to do this," Emily said. "I don't mind," Daniel replied. "It's nice to help." They stood in silence for a moment, broken only by the sound of the wind. Emily wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the chill and something else she couldn't name. Daniel glanced at her, then back at the light. "Is Mark working late again?" he asked gently. Emily hesitated. "He's out of town. He should be back tonight." Daniel nodded, not pressing further. "That happens a lot." It wasn't a question. Emily felt seen in a way that made her uncomfortable and relieved at the same time. Inside, Lily muted the television and crept closer to the doorway, listening. She didn't like the way her mother's voice sounded, soft, careful, like she was walking on thin ice. The lights suddenly stayed on, bright and steady. "There," Daniel said. "All set." Emily let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Thank you, really? Daniel stepped back, wiping his hands on a cloth. Anytime. A second, neither of them moved. The porch felt smaller, the space between them filled with unsaid thoughts. Emily thought about how easy it felt to stand there, how different it felt from the tension that had become normal in her own marriage. "Good night, Emily," Daniel said at last. "Good night," she replied. She closed the door and leaned against it for a brief moment, eyes shut. Her heart was beating too fast. She pushed the feeling away and walked back into the living room. Lily looked at her carefully. "Who was that?" "It's just Mr. Brooks fixing the light," Emily said. "The movie's still on." Lily nodded, but didn't turn the sound back on right away. "Dad hasn't called." Emily sat beside her. "He will." But as she said it, the words felt thin. She stared at the screen without seeing it, aware of the quiet in the house. The steady ticking of the clock and the growing sense that something in her life was slowly slipping out of place. Outside, the porch light shone brightly, steady and clear, while inside, Emily wondered how long she could keep pretending everything was fine. The night grew deeper, and the house settled into a quiet rhythm, broken only by the soft ticking of the clock and the muted hum of the television. Emily sat on the couch, Lily curled against her side, eyes heavy with sleep. The movie lay paused. On the screen, a frozen moment where the two characters finally admitted what had been in their hearts all along. Emily's mind, however, was not on the film. It was on the small moment outside on the porch, a simple act that carried more weight than she wanted to admit. Daniel had come, fixed the light, smiled, and left. And in that brief exchange, he had seen hurt the parts of her she kept hidden. Even from Mark. Emily picked up her phone again, hoping for a message, a sign. Anything from Mark. Nothing. She put it down, frustration gnawing at her chest. Midnight had come and gone. The house was silent except for Lily's quiet breathing. Emily ran a hand through her hair, feeling the ache of loneliness she had tried to ignore. She thought about how long it had been since Mark had really been present, not just physically, but emotionally. How many nights she had waited, watching the clock, pretending everything was fine for Lily's sake. How many times she had pretended that his absence didn't matter, even though it did more than she could admit. She thought about Daniel, how kind he had been, how patient, how natural. There was a softness in his presence that made her feel seen, understood in ways she hadn't realized she had been craving. Emily knew she shouldn't feel this way. She was married, but longing had a way of sneaking in quietly enough, that she didn't notice until it was already there. Lily stirred, lifting her head from Emily's shoulder. "Mom," she whispered. "Are you okay?" Emily forced a small smile, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired." Lily studied her, frowning, but then rested her head back against her mother. "Dad said he'd be back tonight." "I know," Emily whispered, but her words felt hollow even to her own ears. Minutes stretched into hours. Emily stared at the paused movie, thinking about how easy it would be to get lost in a story like that, to imagine a life where honesty and desire were simple, not complicated by obligations and years of routines. The characters on the screen moved toward each other with clarity and intention. Emily wished life could be that straightforward. She got up and walked to the window, peering out at the dark street. Across the road, Daniel's house was dark. The light he had fixed for her still glowed faintly on the porch, a small, steady beacon. She wondered if he realized what a small gesture like that meant. Sometimes it was the little things, the attention, the thoughtfulness that mattered most. She felt a pang of something she couldn't name. Admiration, longing, curiosity. The house was quiet again. Emily sat back down on the couch, Lily's hand in hers. Her daughter's innocence made her heart ache. She wanted to shield Lily from disappointment, from the complicated emotions swirling in the house. from the reality of a father who was physically present but emotionally absent. Emily had learned to live with absence, but living with longing was different. Longing made everything sharper, every feeling amplified, every silence heavier. Emily picked up the remote, tried to unmute the movie, but she couldn't focus. The story on the screen felt hollow compared to the story unfolding in her own life. She thought about how small choices could change everything. Daniel coming over, the porch light flickering, a smile exchanged, nothing huge, but enough to make her heart notice, enough to make her question what she had been accepting for years. She looked at Lily, who had already drifted back into sleep, peaceful and unaware. Emily felt a deep, quiet ache for connection. For someone who saw her completely, who understood without needing explanations. She thought about her marriage, about the countless times she had tried to make things work. Tried to fill the gaps with patience, with routine, with love. She sometimes wondered if Mark even recognized. She realized she was tired, not just physically, but emotionally. Tired of pretending, tired of waiting for someone who might never arrive the way she needed him to. Emily got up and moved toward Lily's room, carrying her gently, feeling the weight of responsibility and desire at once. As she tucked her daughter into bed, she lingered, watching the soft rise and fall of Lily's chest, the trust in her eyes, the small comfort of her presence. She kissed her forehead softly. "Good night, sweetheart," she whispered. "I love you." Returning to the living room, Emily felt the house closing in around her. The quiet was heavy, filled with thoughts she couldn't voice, feelings she couldn't act on. She sat back on the couch and stared at the dark screen of her phone, at the empty living room, at the muted television. Her heart was restless, aware of the distance between her and Mark, aware of the pull toward Daniel. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition, understanding, a longing to be fully seen. Outside, the street was empty, quiet, still. The porch light across the road went off, leaving a shadowy outline of Daniel's home. Emily felt a strange sense of loss in that simple moment, as if the brief connection had already slipped away. She wondered if she would see him again, or if it was just a fleeting glimpse of what could be, what might have been, and what her heart couldn't ignore. She turned off the television and carried Lily back to the couch, deciding to sleep there, rather than return to her empty bedroom. The warmth of her daughter against her made this silence a little more bearable. Emily closed her eyes, letting exhaustion pull at her, but even as she drifted into a light sleep, thoughts of Daniel lingered. Thoughts of what it would feel like to have someone notice her every small detail, to hear her unspoken words, to be present in ways Mark no longer was. The night stretched on. Emily dreamed briefly of a life where honesty wasn't complicated, where longing didn't exist because desires were fulfilled, where love was simple, not strained by absence. She awoke once, hearing the faint sound of wind outside, and for a moment, she imagined Daniel knocking at her door again, and her heart leaped. But it was only the wind. The house was still, except for Lily's soft breathing, except for the quiet ache in Emily's chest that refused to fade. Morning would come, Mark would return, and life would resume its routines. But Emily knew something inside her had shifted, something fragile, delicate, and alive. The memory of Daniel's smile, the steady light. The small conversation they had awakened a part of her that had been dormant, hidden behind obligations and waiting. She realized she could no longer ignore the ache of her heart, the quiet pull of longing, the subtle way her life was changing in ways she didn't fully understand. As she held Lily close, Emily whispered to herself, almost a promise, "I will notice. I will not let this pass quietly." The words were small, but inside, they carried the weight of a new beginning, the anticipation of choices she had yet to make, and the quiet hope that life might offer her something unexpected, even in the middle of ordinary nights.